In a world that rarely pauses, where opinions flood our devices and interruptions are constant, the ability to remain composed is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. More than ever, people find themselves emotionally overwhelmed, easily provoked or discouraged by forces beyond their control. A casual remark, an unexpected delay, or even silence from others can throw the mind into unrest. But while life continues to challenge us, there exists a quiet and powerful truth. Peace is not found in avoiding conflict. It's found in mastering our response to it. Imagine walking through life unaffected by petty comments, trivial setbacks, or the fleeting judgments of others. Not because you feel nothing, but because you've trained your mind to rise above unnecessary chaos. This ability to act as if nothing bothers you is not about becoming cold or indifferent. On the contrary, it's about developing the discipline to remain calm, the clarity to stay focused, and the confidence to stay grounded. It is a mindset that gives you the ability to control your reactions and, in doing so, reclaim the power that many unknowingly give away. Throughout history, those who have achieved greatness, true, lasting greatness, shared one common trait: composure. They moved through life with purpose, rarely rattled by resistance or external opinion. While others panicked, they paused. While others reacted, they responded. This level of emotional control is not reserved for the few. It can be learned, practiced, and mastered by anyone at any stage of life. This story is a practical guide for developing that mindset. Together we'll explore how to detach from distractions, navigate criticism, withstand pressure, and rise above the noise. You will learn how to act with calm intention rather than impulsive reaction, to build a foundation of quiet strength that others can sense but never shake. And if this is your first time here, welcome. You've just taken the first step toward building the most valuable skill in the modern world: self-mastery. If the insights here speak to you, be sure to sign up for future stories, tools, and guided practices designed to help you live with more confidence, more peace, and more purpose. Let's begin. There is an old saying: he who controls others may be powerful, but he who has mastered himself is mightier still. This wisdom speaks to a timeless truth. Real power does not come from changing the world around us, but from changing how we respond to it. We live in an age that encourages emotional expression, and while that can be healthy, there is also a risk. Many people become so reactive, so quick to respond with anger, frustration, or sadness, that they end up being led by their feelings rather than leading their feelings themselves. The result is a life dictated by external events. A missed call, a criticism, or an unexpected delay can derail a person's entire day. And in that moment, they hand over their peace to something they cannot control. Emotional mastery begins when you recognize that while you cannot always control what happens around you, you can always choose how you respond within. The most resilient individuals are not those who avoid challenges or uncomfortable emotions, but those who have trained themselves to pause, reflect, and respond with intention rather than impulse. This pause is powerful. It creates space. And in that space, there is clarity. Instead of reacting emotionally to a stressful situation, you can observe it. Instead of retaliating when someone disrespects you, you can remain calm. This doesn't mean you are weak or passive. It means you are in control. Think of emotional mastery like strengthening a muscle. It requires consistency, practice, and patience. The first time you choose not to react, it might feel uncomfortable. You may even feel as though you are suppressing your true feelings, but with time you will discover that you are not pushing emotions down. You are elevating your awareness above them. This is the difference between emotion and wisdom. Emotions are immediate. Wisdom takes time. And the more you practice self-regulation, the more you begin to experience a deeper kind of power, one that does not shout, does not flinch, and does not crumble under pressure. When others lose control, the emotionally strong remain composed. When others demand attention through loud reactions, the emotionally strong speak through presence. This silent confidence often earns more respect than 1,000 loud words ever could. As you begin this journey toward emotional strength, understand this: your mind is not your enemy. It is your most loyal servant, if you train it. Without direction, it reacts, but with purpose, it responds. The work of emotional mastery is not about becoming emotionless, it is about becoming emotionally intelligent. And that skill is a lifelong advantage, no matter your age or background. Each time you choose stillness over chaos, calm over conflict, and awareness over reaction, you build that strength, and over time, it becomes second nature. You will find yourself less disturbed by things that once consumed your energy. You will notice yourself walking through difficulties with a sense of quiet dignity. And when people ask how you stay so calm, you'll know the answer. It is because you chose to master yourself. In everyday life, countless things attempt to pull at our attention: opinions, interruptions, criticism, delays, and disappointments. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with stimuli, much of it negative, all of it relentless. But what most people never realize is this: not everything deserves your reaction. In fact, one of the greatest forms of strength is not reacting at all. The strategic indifference is not about being passive. It's not about turning away from responsibility or ignoring real issues. It is the conscious decision to not allow external circumstances to dictate your internal state. It is the choice to remain centered when the world is spinning around you. It is mental discipline in action. Consider for a moment what happens when someone tries to provoke you, perhaps with an insult or rude tone or a passive-aggressive comment. The usual response is to fight back, defend yourself, or prove a point. But what if, instead, you simply observe the moment without being moved by it? What if you responded with silence or with a calm smile? In doing so, you take away their power. The person who expected to rattle you is left confused, unsettled, even powerless. This is not weakness. This is control. This is strength under pressure. It is the essence of strategic indifference. The great minds and leaders throughout history were not the ones who responded to every accusation or attack. They were the ones who walked forward, unbothered, focused on their greater purpose. They understood that every reaction comes at a cost, and they were careful not to spend their emotional energy where it would bring no return. Think of your energy like a currency. Every reaction, every outburst, every defensive comment, these are all withdrawals. And over time, if you continue to spend on things that do not matter, you are left with nothing for what does. Strategic indifference means protecting your emotional reserves. It means being selective with your attention and your energy. It is knowing when to engage and, more importantly, when to let things pass. Just because something happens does not mean it deserves a response. Of course, this is easier said than done. We are taught from a young age to defend ourselves, to explain ourselves, to prove our worth to others. But this only leads to exhaustion, anxiety, and a life constantly shaped by the opinions of those around us. By choosing indifference, not because you don't care, but because you care more about your peace, you begin to regain control. You begin to act from a place of power rather than react from a place of fear. And over time, people will begin to notice. They may not understand it, but they will respect it. Let them wonder why you are not shaken. Let them try to figure out why you are not provoked. In that mystery lies your strength. Because the truth is, not everything needs your energy. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every challenge requires your emotional investment. The art of strategic indifference is knowing when to rise above, not in arrogance, but in wisdom. And that wisdom, once learned, will serve you in every area of life. There is a common misunderstanding, especially among those new to the path of emotional control, that detachment means becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. But nothing could be further from the truth. Real detachment is not apathy. In fact, it often comes from caring more deeply, but caring in a way that is wise, measured, and sustainable. To be apathetic is to stop engaging with life. It is to give up on feeling, to close off the heart, and to disconnect from meaning. It is a passive state, a resignation. Apathy leads to isolation. It creates numbness, and in the long term, it erodes purpose. Detachment, on the other hand, is a strength. It is the ability to participate fully in life without being ruled by it. You can love deeply, work passionately, and pursue goals with commitment while still remaining balanced and grounded. Detachment is what allows you to remain at peace when outcomes don't go your way. It is what helps you stay steady when others are emotional, reactive. Let's take a simple example. Suppose you apply for something important, a job, an award, a relationship, and it doesn't work out. A person ruled by emotion may fall into discouragement, replaying the rejection over and over again, questioning their worth. An apathetic person might not have cared in the first place, but a detached person, they accept what happened. They feel the disappointment, but they don't allow it to control them. They adjust their path and continue forward. That is the heart of detachment, not the absence of feeling, but the presence of self-control. In practical terms, emotional detachment gives you space to respond rather than react. It creates a buffer between stimulus and response, where you can choose clarity over chaos. And it gives you freedom from being pulled in every direction by the moods, opinions, and actions of others. When you are detached, you do not surrender your peace to every passing storm. You do not define your value by how others treat you or what they think of you. And, perhaps most importantly, you do not collapse when life doesn't unfold as you imagine. You understand that disappointment is part of life. You know that people will change, circumstances will shift, and even your best efforts may not always lead to your desired outcome. But instead of resisting this truth, you accept it. You learn to adapt. You grow stronger. In this way, detachment becomes a tool for resilience. It allows you to remain compassionate without being consumed, committed without becoming desperate, and involved without losing yourself. There is a dignity in this kind of balance. People can sense it, even if they cannot explain it. And over time, as you practice detachment with intention, you will begin to notice something remarkable. Situations that once overwhelmed you now pass through you like wind through trees. You are no longer shaken, no longer enslaved by outcomes. You are fully engaged, but no longer entangled, and that is the quiet beauty of true emotional detachment. One of the deepest emotional traps that quietly governs many lives especially in today's connected world, is the need for approval. It begins early in life, often without notice. A child seeks praise from parents. A student wants the teacher's affirmation. An employee hopes the manager is impressed, and over time, this pattern becomes ingrained. We begin to measure our worth by the opinions of others. This dependence on external validation is not only exhausting, it is dangerous. When your sense of self is shaped by how others see you, you become vulnerable to their moods, their judgments, and their limitations. You give others a silent permission to define you, and in doing so, you lose sight of your own voice. To break free from this trap, you must first recognize its signs. Are you constantly second-guessing your decisions because you fear what others might think? Do you find yourself over-explaining your actions, hoping to justify them to people who may never understand your journey? Do you hesitate to pursue something meaningful because it might be misunderstood or criticized? If so, you are not alone. Many people, even well into adulthood, struggle with this invisible chain. The constant pull to please, to conform, to gain approval. But freedom begins when you realize that no one else's opinion of you should outweigh your own. True confidence does not come from applause. It is built slowly, consistently, through small acts of self-respect. It comes from making decisions that align with your values, even if they go against the crowd. It comes from standing firm in what you believe, even when others question you. And it comes from knowing that your worth is not up for debate. Imagine for a moment the energy that is wasted trying to earn approval, all the time spent editing yourself, seeking the right words, reshaping your identity to fit into someone else's mold. Now imagine reclaiming that energy, redirecting it toward your own growth, your own goals, your own inner peace. The truth is, no matter what you do, someone will misunderstand you, someone will disapprove, someone will judge. But once you stop chasing the illusion of universal approval, you begin to live more freely, more authentically, and more powerfully. Think about the people who have made real change in the world, leaders, inventors, creators. They did not ask for permission. They were criticized, doubted, sometimes ridiculed, but they pressed forward because their conviction was stronger than their need to be liked. You can choose the same path, not a path of rebellion or defiance, but a path of alignment, a path where your actions come from your own clarity, not from external pressure, where your happiness is no longer tied to the ever-changing opinions of others. And perhaps the most liberating truth of all, you don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to justify your dreams, your lifestyle, or your pace. Those who truly understand you will not need an explanation. Those who don't will not be satisfied with one. Let go of the approval trap. Reclaim your voice. Trust your inner compass. Because the moment you stop needing to be accepted is the moment you become truly powerful and finally free. Criticism is inevitable. No matter who you are, no matter how well you speak, behave, or act, someone somewhere will have something to say. The moment you take a step forward, the moment you try something new or stand out from the crowd, you invite both attention and judgment. This is not a problem. It is a reality, and once you accept this, the question becomes not how to avoid criticism, but how to process it without being harmed. Most people react to criticism emotionally. They feel hurt, offended, or discouraged, even if the comment is coming from someone they barely know. This reaction is natural, but it is also unwise. When you let every critical word get under your skin, you allow others to control how you feel. Worse, you begin to internalize their words, turning passing opinions into lasting beliefs. To rise above this pattern, you must begin to view criticism logically rather than emotionally. And the first step is to ask, who is offering this feedback and what qualifies them to judge me? Not all voices carry the same weight. An opinion from someone who has never walked your path, who does not share your values, or who simply enjoys tearing others down is not worth your energy. But that does not mean all criticism should be ignored. In fact, constructive criticism, delivered by those who care or who have relevant knowledge, can be one of your greatest tools for growth. The key is discernment, to separate what is helpful from what is harmful. Imagine a sculptor working on a piece of art in a public square. Some bystanders will admire the work, others will offer suggestions, a few may mock or dismiss it entirely. Should the sculptor stop and respond to each passerby? Should he abandon his vision every time someone disagrees? Of course not. His task is to stay true to his craft while using only what truly serves the outcome. You must take the same approach. Let criticism come, it will anyway. Then pause, breathe, assess it with a calm mind. Ask yourself, is there truth here? Can this help me grow? If the answer is yes, accept it, use it, improve because of it. But if the answer is no, if it is rooted in ignorance, jealousy, or cruelty, then let it go. Let it pass like wind through trees. And remember, your reaction to criticism says more about your strength than the criticism itself. The emotionally reactive will argue, defend, or retreat. The emotionally mature will listen, evaluate, and either apply or dismiss without allowing their peace to be disturbed. Over time, this habit builds a quiet confidence. People will notice that you do not flinch when challenged, that you do not crumble when questioned. They will begin to see you as someone grounded, unshaken by the noise around them, and that in turn earns you even more respect than any defensive response ever could. Filtering criticism through logic is not about arrogance. It is about clarity. It is the discipline of knowing your values, staying focused on your vision, and refusing to be shaken by the irrelevant opinions of those who do not carry your mission in their heart. Criticism will always be part of the journey, but once you learn how to meet it with calm discernment rather than emotional reaction, it will no longer be a threat. It will simply be another piece of information, sometimes useful, sometimes not, but never powerful enough to take away your peace. Pressure is a natural part of life. It appears in moments both big and small, from unexpected disruptions in your daily routine to life-altering decisions that test your strength. And while most people dread pressure, avoid it, or crumble beneath it, those who understand its true nature begin to see it differently. They come to realize that pressure is not the enemy, it is the examiner. It reveals with absolute clarity what lies beneath the surface of your character. Think of pressure as a form of truth serum. When stress rises, pretenses fall away. Under pressure, people either panic or perform. They either react emotionally or respond with discipline. And the difference between the two is not found in talent, background, or luck. It is found in preparation. Composure under pressure is not something that magically appears in times of difficulty. It is something that is trained, cultivated, and rehearsed long before the storm arrives. The most grounded individuals do not expect life to go smoothly. They do not wait for ideal conditions. Instead, they anticipate challenge. They prepare for resistance. They build their mindset around one truth. Things will go wrong, but I will remain steady. This mindset begins with expectation. Many people break down under pressure not because the situation is truly overwhelming, but because they are shocked that the difficulty even appeared. They had hoped everything would go according to plan, and when it didn't, they resisted reality, and that resistance created suffering. Mentally strong people accept that challenges are not exceptions, they are guarantees. They don't waste energy wishing life were easier. They invest their energy in becoming stronger, calmer, more adaptable. Consider the seasoned firefighter, the emergency doctor, the pilot in turbulence. These individuals are trained not only in their craft, but in their capacity to remain calm when others cannot. Their breathing slows, not quickens. Their voices lower, not rise. They observe, assess, and respond with intention. This is the essence of composure. Not the absence of pressure, but poise in the presence of it. You can develop this same steadiness. It begins by changing your relationship with discomfort. The next time you feel tension rising, instead of reacting immediately, pause, notice your breathing, anchor yourself in the moment, remind yourself, this is my test, and then ask, what does this situation truly require from me right now? Often the answer is not drama, panic, or complaint. It is clarity, it is focus, it is calm. Another powerful tool in building composure is visualization. Just as athletes mentally rehearse a race before they step onto the track, you can rehearse your response to stress before it arrives. Picture yourself staying composed in a conflict. See yourself thinking clearly during a delay or breakdown. The mind, when trained with repetition, begins to believe what it visualizes. And what it believes, it brings to life. Understand this, in any moment of pressure, there is a window, a gap between what happens and how you respond. In that gap lies your freedom. Most people shrink it until it disappears, but you can expand it. You can widen that space with awareness, and the wider it becomes, the more control you regain over your emotions and actions. In this world, composure is rare. Many people live at the mercy of their circumstances. They are shaken by the smallest inconvenience, set off by the tiniest criticism, and exhausted by every interruption. But you have the choice to be different, to train yourself to breathe when others hold their breath, to think when others are frozen, to stand tall when others retreat. And when you do, something powerful happens, not only within you, but around you. People begin to look to you for stability. They begin to trust your leadership. They feel the calm in your presence, even if they can't explain it. Because you have done the inner work, and when pressure comes, as it always will, you will not just survive it, you will lead through it. One of the most persistent causes of stress and inner conflict is the desire for control. We want things to go our way. We hope for outcomes to align with our expectations. We try to plan every detail, predict every turn, and secure every result. And when life inevitably moves in a different direction, we resist. That resistance, more than the event itself, creates the suffering. Letting go of control does not mean giving up. It does not mean you stop caring or stop trying. Rather, it means learning to differentiate between what you can influence and what you cannot. This awareness alone brings tremendous relief. It frees the mind from pointless worry and allows your energy to be directed toward meaningful action. Think of water flowing down a river. When it encounters a rock, it does not stop. It does not argue with the rock, nor does it try to move it by force. Instead, it flows around it, continuing its path with grace. That is the model of strength we aim for. Not rigid resistance, but fluid adaptation. Many people struggle because they grip too tightly. They cling to relationships, results, routines, or even ideas of how things should be. And when change occurs, as it always does, they feel as though the ground has been pulled from beneath them. But what truly causes the fall is not the change. It's the clinging. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is understanding that peace is not found in certainty, but in flexibility. Life will bring unexpected delays, missed opportunities, and outcomes that look very different from what you imagined. But if you can accept those changes and shift your response, you remain steady, even when the world around you shifts. One of the best ways to practice letting go is by asking yourself, in any moment of distress, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, then take action. If the answer is no, then release it. Holding on will only add weight, emotional, mental, even physical. That weight clouds your thinking, drains your energy, and robs you of presence. And letting go does not make you uncaring. On the contrary, it allows you to care more effectively. When you are not consumed by what you can't change, you have more clarity, more time, and more strength to focus on what you can. You become more resilient, more stable, and more emotionally generous to those around you. The elderly often carry this wisdom instinctively, having lived through decades of unexpected events. Many learn that not everything is worth fighting, not every loss is a tragedy, and not every disappointment is permanent. There is power in letting go, not from apathy, but from understanding the limits of control and the value of surrender. Over time, this practice becomes liberating. You will begin to feel lighter. You will notice that you no longer feel threatened by change. You will no longer fear uncertainty. And in this shift, you will find something many people spend their lives chasing: inner peace. Letting go is not about doing less, it is about wasting less. Wasting less worry, less energy, and less life on things that don't deserve it. It is about moving forward, not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer resisting what is imperfect. This is the calm power of surrender. This is where true freedom begins. In a world where everyone is rushing to be heard, where conversations are filled with noise and constant interruptions, silence has become a rare and powerful virtue. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. They associate it with awkwardness, with weakness, or with the absence of ideas. But when practiced with intention, silence is none of those things. It is, in fact, one of the most disciplined forms of strength. The one who speaks less often holds more control, not just over others, but over themselves. Words once spoken cannot be taken back. They reveal emotions, thoughts, intentions. And in moments of high emotion or conflict, it is often the one who can remain quiet who commands the greatest influence. Think of a negotiation. One party makes an offer and waits. The silence stretches. The other party, uncomfortable with the quiet, begins to speak again, offering more, revealing their concerns, showing their hand. All the while, the one who remains silent gains insight, patience, and leverage. This is not manipulation, it is wisdom. It is the discipline to withhold reaction, to allow silence to do the work that words sometimes cannot. In everyday life, silence offers clarity. When someone insults you, silence creates space. It removes the energy the other person seeks to feed off of. When others expect a reaction, your silence denies them the control they hope to gain. They are left wondering, unsure, and in that moment you remain grounded, composed, unaffected. But silence isn't just a strategy in conflict. It is also a tool for reflection. In moments of decision-making, silence allows the noise of the outside world to fade so that the inner voice can be heard more clearly. Many wise decisions are made not in discussion, but in solitude, in quiet thought, in stillness. To practice the discipline of silence is not to withdraw from life. It is to participate in it with greater care. It is to listen more deeply, to observe more clearly, to speak only when speaking adds value, not simply when it fills the air. Of course, silence can be misunderstood. Some may perceive it as avoidance or indifference, but over time, people begin to recognize its true nature. They see that when you choose not to speak unnecessarily, your words carry more weight. They notice that when you do speak, it is with purpose, not with impulse. This is especially important during emotionally charged situations. When you are angry, silence protects you. When you are frustrated, it gives you space to reset. It does not suppress your feelings. It creates a moment where you can examine them without reacting blindly. That moment of restraint, repeated again and again, becomes strength. It becomes maturity. It becomes leadership. For the elderly, who often carry a lifetime of knowledge and experience, silence can be a sign of deep wisdom. There is no need to prove anything, no need to rush to speak. There is power in measured speech. There is dignity in withholding when others are pouring out. Practicing silence can begin in small ways. Pause before answering a question. Breathe before responding to a difficult comment. Listen all the way to the end before offering your perspective. In doing so, you teach your mind to observe, to consider, and to respond with clarity rather than confusion. Eventually, silence becomes a comfort, not a burden. It becomes a sanctuary, a place where you are no longer pulled by noise, but guided by intention. In silence, we discover space. In space, we find peace, and in peace, we reclaim the presence that so many others have lost in the noise. If your mind is your most powerful tool, and it is, then like any tool, it must be sharpened, it must be maintained, and it must be trained through daily intentional practice. Mental strength is not something we are born with. It is something we earn over time through small, disciplined choices repeated again and again. Too often, people believe that composure, resilience, and confidence come naturally to certain individuals. They assume that calm people were simply born that way, but the truth is far more empowering. These qualities are developed through habit, reflection, and the consistent decision to respond rather than react. Training the mind does not require hours of meditation or rigid routines. It requires presence. It requires consistency. And it begins with becoming more aware of your thoughts, what enters your mind, what you focus on, and what beliefs you allow to shape your behavior. Start each day with intention. Before the distractions begin, take a few quiet minutes to center yourself. You might focus on gratitude, reminding yourself of what is already good in your life. Gratitude doesn't erase problems, but it strengthens the part of your mind that sees possibilities rather than just obstacles. As the day continues, notice your inner dialogue. Are your thoughts helpful, or are they filled with unnecessary worry, doubt, or self-criticism? If your mind begins to spiral, gently guide it back. Ask, is this thought useful? Does it serve my peace? This awareness alone begins to shift your mindset from passive thinking to active directing. Discipline also plays a key role. It's not about perfection, it's about choosing what strengthens you instead of what weakens you, even in small moments. When you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you build trust with your own mind. You reinforce the message: I am someone who follows through. I am someone in control. Even something as simple as making your bed, taking a walk, completing a task you planned, all of these send a message to your mind that you are consistent, that you are dependable. These moments may feel small, but over time, they form the structure of mental resilience. In addition to discipline, visualization is a powerful training method. Each day, take a few moments to see yourself as the person you are becoming. Imagine yourself remaining calm under pressure, walking away from unnecessary conflict, focusing deeply on what matters most. The mind responds to repeated images, and the more you visualize strength, the more naturally it begins to show up in your daily life. For those in later stages of life, this practice can be especially enriching. As the outer world changes, careers shift, routines slow, relationships evolve, the inner world becomes even more important. Mental training is not just for the young. In fact, the wisdom of age gives you a richer foundation on which to build mental calmness, perspective, and clarity. And when setbacks come, as they inevitably do, your training becomes your anchor. You'll notice that where once you might have reacted impulsively, you now pause. Where frustration once consumed you, it now passes more quickly. Where fear once took over, you now respond with thoughtful action. This doesn't mean you won't feel emotion. It means you'll no longer be ruled by it. Because you've practiced, you've trained, you've made the decision each day to be stronger than yesterday. Mental mastery is not about never falling. It's about rising more quickly. It's about facing discomfort and doing the next right thing, even when it's hard. Over time, your mind becomes less like a leaf in the wind and more like a rooted tree, firm, still, and deeply grounded. And that, more than any external success, is the kind of strength that carries through every season of life. There is a quiet, commanding strength in those who do not feel the need to announce every intention, explain every move, or seek recognition for each step they take. These individuals understand a timeless principle. Real power does not need to prove itself. It simply acts and lets the results speak. In our modern world, where everything is documented, shared, and judged in real time, the urge to broadcast our efforts is strong. Social media encourages us to show progress before completion, to share dreams before they're built. But there is a cost to this constant exposure. The more you talk about your goals, the more you invite opinions, some supportive, others critical. And too often, those opinions shape your path before it has a chance to take form. When you move in silence, you protect your energy, you guard your vision, you give your ideas the space they need to develop without interference, without noise, and without the weight of expectation. This is not secrecy born from fear, it is privacy born from strength. You are not hiding. You are honoring the process. The most focused people in the world do not chase applause. They do not explain their every step. Instead, they work consistently, quietly, with intention. And when the outcome appears, it speaks for them. This way of living requires a high level of self-trust. You must believe in your direction, even when others don't understand it. You must become comfortable with silence, with solitude, and with the long, often invisible stretches of progress that are essential to any real transformation. Moving in silence also removes the pressure to perform. When you share too soon, you may feel the need to impress, to prove, to justify. But when you work quietly, you are free to focus fully on the work itself, not on how it looks to others, but on how true it feels to you. This doesn't mean you should never speak or never share, but it means learning to share after the work is done, not during its most delicate stages. It means learning to listen to your own voice first, before inviting in the voices of others. It means letting your results, not your rhetoric, reveal your progress. For those who have spent years, perhaps decades, caring for others, leading families, or working in community roles, the idea of working silently may feel foreign. You are used to explaining, clarifying, or helping others understand your intentions, but there is great peace, especially in later stages of life, in choosing privacy over persuasion, in doing what feels right without the constant need to explain yourself. There is also a practical benefit. When others are unsure of your next move, they cannot interfere with it. When you reveal little, you protect much. You avoid unnecessary criticism, avoid premature opinions, and avoid wasting energy defending what does not yet need defending. And so, the path of silent progress is not a lonely one. It is simply less crowded. It is filled with quiet effort, deep focus, and a growing sense of confidence that does not need to be spoken aloud. In time, people will begin to notice the results of your discipline. They will see the strength you carry, the clarity you exhibit, and the peace you radiate. They may ask, "How did you get here? When did this change happen?" And you will know. It happened when you stopped talking about it and started living it. There is a quiet force in silent momentum, and when you learn to harness it, you become truly unstoppable. As we reach the close of this journey, one truth rises above all else. Strength begins within. Not the kind of strength that demands attention, argues for its worth, or reacts to every challenge, but the kind that endures, the kind that holds steady through difficulty, that listens before speaking, and that walks forward without waiting for approval. The unshakable self is not born from avoiding stress, discomfort, or uncertainty. It is formed by stepping into those very moments and choosing stillness over chaos, clarity over reaction, and presence over performance. You now understand that emotional mastery is not about suppressing what you feel, but guiding it with awareness. That strategic indifference is not indifference at all, but a wise filtering of where you place your energy. That detachment is not coldness, but the warmth of freedom. Freedom from the things you cannot change. You've seen that approval is a fleeting reward, but self-respect is a lasting one. You've learned how to meet criticism with logic, not emotion. How to prepare for pressure so it no longer surprises you. How to let go, move in silence, and carry yourself with intention. None of these shifts happen overnight, but each one begins with a single choice. A pause before reacting, a silence instead of a reply, a breath in the middle of tension. Over time, these small decisions form the foundation of a powerful life. A calm life, a life lived on your terms. Whether you are just beginning this journey or returning to it with new perspective, know this: it is never too late to reclaim your inner calm. You are not defined by your past reactions. You are shaped by the choices you make now and the discipline you apply moving forward. So take what you've learned, reflect on it, begin applying it to your daily life. Train your mind not to escape life's noise, but to rise above it. Not to avoid emotion, but to master it. And if you found meaning in these words, if this story resonated with something inside you, welcome. You're among those who are choosing a better way to live, a quieter, stronger, wiser way. To continue receiving thoughtful guidance, reflective stories, and tools for building emotional clarity and peace, we invite you to sign up and join us. This is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one led not by reaction, but by inner strength. You now carry a truth that many never realize. When you master your mind, you master your life.